Since I can remember, I have been told Hitler was far right. It's something I never stopped to question, I simply trusted what I was told. Over the last few years, I have seen countless rallies and demonstrations where the left have been insinuating that their political opponents were Nazis or fascists, yet at the same time, they were the ones trying to use force to stop their opponents. They were the ones campaigning to stop freedom of speech through hate speech laws. They were the ones calling for books to be removed from shelves. They were the ones of a militia called Antifa, who were deployed to violently subvert political opposition, just like the Nazi brown shirts. If you ask someone to explain why Hitler is associated with the right, they will probably try to focus on the fact he was a nationalist. But then I look at China, who are far left communist, and note they are strongly nationalistic. Even Jews will confidently proclaim that Israel is exclusively for them, and these people fell victim to the Nazi regime. So there is no way you can say nationalism is a far-right ideology. Some will try to argue that Hitler was a militarist and sought to expand his empire, but of course communist Russia did the same thing. And let's not forget, you cannot get more militaristic than communist China. Some will point to the use of concentration camps, but far more died in concentration camps in Russia and China than in Germany. Over 100 million people died under the communist regime, far more than during the entire World War. If you examine these policies, there is nothing particular to connect Hitler to the right at all, but there is quite a lot to connect him to the left. He believed in the authoritarian state over individual freedom and liberty, and so embraced big government. He oversaw a national social welfare system which was pioneering for its day. Germans enjoyed paid leave, employees had to give 4 weeks notice if they wanted to terminate your employment, and everyone had the right to appeal any unfair dismissal to an independent tribunal. His government built holiday camps connected by rail links so working class families could enjoy a subsidised vacation. Companies were ordered to conform to strict cleanliness and hygiene standards, provide recreational areas, cafeterias and adequate changing rooms. His government ordered the mass creation of sporting facilities, believing firmly that a healthy mind and body went hand in hand. Before the outbreak of war, Hitler was admired by many leaders of the left and was considered one of the world's foremost progressives who had restored pride in the German workers. Now just stop for a moment. Does this sound like a far-right government to you? Of course not. So why did they make out it was? Well, this is a common tactic employed by the radical left because they have one big problem. Their arguments don't stand up to logical interrogation. The only way they can win favour is to set themselves up as moralists. Here they set themselves up as the saviours of society, the people that want the very best for you, and anyone opposing them are demonised. In this case, they ironically use Hitler's Nazi party to project onto their opposition. They could have picked any dictator. Unfortunately for them, most like Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot and Che Guevara were clearly far-left communists, so they rewrote history to make Hitler into a far-right figure. And the reason they picked him in particular is because he fought against the communist regime, something the radical left just can't forgive. At this stage, I think it would be useful to define what the far right is, because at the moment the far right is anyone who disagrees with the left. Now I think it is reasonable to declare communism as a definitive far left ideology. I don't think many would argue with this. So if we reverse what we know of communism, we should get the far right. So let's start by listing the qualities of communism. Firstly, we have a resounding belief in totalitarian state control. Secondly, individual liberty is replaced by collectivism. Here the individual is expected to sacrifice individual liberty for the greater good of the collective. Thirdly, the state owns the means of production and all property. Here the state owns and operates businesses and pays the worker what they consider reasonable on a points-based system. In essence, the individual is totally dependent on the state. So logically speaking, if we reverse what we know of the far left, we should get the true far right. Firstly, the far right would favour a form of anarchism, insisting on absolute minimal government interference in their lives. Secondly, collectivism is totally rejected and the rights of the individual are held up as paramount. Thirdly, they believe in a free market where they compete for jobs and wages, and they completely support private property rights. The far right would also reject any form of welfare state. So now we have to ask the question, was Hitler far left or far right? Well, there is no doubt he favoured a totalitarian form of government. He certainly believed in collectivism. Germans were not individuals but part of the Nazi system. Each was expected to sacrifice themselves for the fatherland. Lastly, he did not favour a free market. All businesses wanting to win contracts needed to work alongside the Nazi Party. Many were compelled to join the Nazi Party in order to be granted contracts. He embraced the welfare state. Yes, he was capable of unimagined cruelty, but so was Stalin, Mao and all the other communist leaders. So be honest, is there anything connecting the Nazi Party to the far right?
No.
The simple fact is there is absolutely nothing connecting Hitler to the far right. So just why did they do it?
In 1943, the following directive was issued from party headquarters to all communists in the United States. It read, "When certain obstructionists become too irritating, label them after suitable build-ups as fascist or Nazi or anti-Semitic, and use the prestige of anti-fascist and tolerance organizations to discredit them. In the public mind, constantly associate those who oppose us with those names which already have a bad smell. The association will, after enough repetition, become fact in the public mind."
Off our streets, Nazi scum! Off our streets, Nazi scum! Off our streets, Nazi scum! Off our streets, Nazi scum!